From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy.
The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, mailbag time. We're talking about basketball. Are they after a unicorn to replace Leonard Hamilton? What's Miami going to look like this upcoming season? And people be angry. We're going to showcase that on Generating Discussion sparked by Cummins. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Sip the juice, shake it, then promptly take it, everybody. I'm taking a half shot today. Going to hit the gym. Lower body day, Corey. I'm starting to embrace lower body day. I don't know if it's because of the vitamin energy. I don't know if it's the mood got me in the right mood. If I'm focused, because now I realize the key to strength is in the lower body. Drive it with the hips, the glutes, activate them. But figure out what you want to get maybe 1% better today. And then find the right formula for you over at vitaminenergy.com. 260 milligrams all natural caffeine. No sugar crash. It is called Vitamin Energy. So there's vitamins and nutrients. Vitamin C. Vitamin B, vitamin D. Again, check it out. The world's your oyster over at vitaminenergy.com. Noles behind the operation. Help out some Noles. Shake it and take it. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Busy weekend coming up. The Joanne Graff Classic underway. Florida State softball. Florida State baseball hosting Penn. Noles in Louisville this coming weekend, Corey? Which apparently... Kentucky Fried Chicken has abandoned Louisville, Kentucky. They're moving their corporate offices to Texas.
Oh.
Big L for U of L. I didn't even have that planned out. I was kind of proud of that, but you could have sold it a little bit better. But I'll sell you now. Everybody, senior writer, lead writer, heart and soul of this program, and gosh darn it, cannot believe they did Seminole headlines without you. I'm not even going to talk the rest of the show. It's all Corey Clark now, everybody. What's up, big dog?
What's up, man? How you doing? When's the last time you had KFC?
I don't know. That's a good question.
It's been a minute, right? Yeah. I think I've had it once in the last year. I love it. The gravy. I was one of because I don't eat potatoes. I've never been a potatoes guy, so I would get as my side just the gravy, and they'll do it if you ask. Side of gravy, and then I would dip my chicken and my biscuits in there.
Ooh.
It's a way to live life now. Now I made some. I've readjusted some things. I've adjusted some things in my life the last few years, so I don't eat like that too much anymore. But once every 6 or 7 months, I'll do it, and it's really, really good.
All right.
Not that KFC sponsors our show.
They do not.
I don't even know what I'm doing.
All righty, it's a Renegade Express mailbag of the show today, everybody. Before we dip into all that, some other things to button up. How about all these newcomers? We forgot to talk about the batch from Tuesday. Then we got a whole new batch on Thursday as well, Corey. So 8 guys. I think they were all freshmen. I think Kevin Wynn might be the headliner just because of his recruiting profile and the heralded sort of status he comes with. But country strong, admittedly, country strong dude. I like those kinds. Some people in the comments section saying future Timmy Jernigan possibly.
Both country boys strong.
There we go.
Those two guys. Yeah, sure. I mean, those are big shoes to fill, but let's hope, man. Let's hope, because Timmy Jernigan was really, really good. But his whole time here and in the NFL.
Yeah. How about those twins? How about Daryl and Mandrell? That's going to be, I mean, you'd have to be really, really, really awesome twins for me to take you on in my program, because especially when you look that much alike, I would never be able to tell you guys apart.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, really, obviously I am not nearly as passionate about recruiting as I once was. And I remember when they kind of popped up on the scene, it was a package deal. It was twin brothers, and I'm like, all right, I guess I understand. I mean, they're from a really good program down there in Norland. I don't know how much really interest they had, Corey, but I kind of felt like this was let's just get some bodies, let's fill out our class. But man, they are 2 well put together young men, and just talk about having, we keep talking about the right mindset, and it's just words, as you like to say, in the middle of February. But I did not expect to hear the sort of sharpened focus and just the right note to have, because it's one thing to come up there and talk about you want to get on the field early and be faux humble about it, but then also maybe be a little bit arrogant about it and not have enough self-awareness. But those 2 young men look physically like they would be ready to help out this team in some way or form, but they also seem to have the right mindset. That really stood out to me on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not counting on them doing anything of note this season, not because I don't believe in them or care that much about recruiting rankings, and they weren't rated that high. It's just that, again, they're defensive linemen and they're true freshmen. So it's going to be hard for them to get on the field. But you do like, especially, was it Darryl that went first, right?
Correct.
Like, he is a no-nonsense. He reminds you like a stern teacher. Like, just doesn't crack a smile. In there to fool around, doesn't suffer fools. He's just there to do one thing, and he made that abundantly clear when he's talking. I do like that mindset because you have to have the mindset that you are here to be a great player even when you're not playing. And they aren't going to play, most likely, any significant snaps in 2025. But if you have that mindset that you not only do you belong, like they weren't just happy to be talking to us. Well, they weren't happy at all. But they certainly weren't just happy like, oh, look, I'm at Florida State, I made it. No, man, they seemed, like you said, laser focused on being really good, not just being here, but being really good. Now let's see if they can keep that in September and October when they're not playing and they're on the scout team, most likely. That's when you really see what those mindsets are like and how strong those mindsets are. But that's a good base. That's a good base to have that kind of viewpoint of I'm here to dominate, I'm here to play early, probably not going to play early, but I'm here to play early, and I'm solely focused on becoming a great football player. It's like, good, I like to hear that. Now, let's see how strong your convictions are when you're running scout team in October. But if you can keep that same mindset throughout your first year of learning everything and getting bigger, stronger, and better, then those guys are the ones that make it, man. Now, you got to have the ability, too, but the first part, it seems like they have. They have the right mindset to someday contribute at the college football level.
3 quick hitters before we dive into the mailbag. Florida State took down Miami on the hardwood. That's 14 out of the last 15, I think. Yes, Corey?
Crazy.
74-66 over Miami. Miami's starting quarterback had Grand Theft Auto perform to him. And then our guy, David, on YouTube, not a word about Charles Lester's DUI on the program the other day. And I was actually very encouraged because I read the police report. He's listed at 6'1", 210. That was my big takeaway.
210, that's pretty big,
man,
for a corner.
That's a big corner, yeah, man. So,
all right, okay.
No offense, Josh Storms. Don't know if I can trust your measurements 100%. But the fine folks down at the Manatee County Sheriff's Department, I think they might have a little more.
I'll be honest with you. They probably did a real. But also, I bet he weighed him. They probably didn't have him stripped down. He probably was just wearing what he was wearing, so that's probably an extra 5 or 6 pounds. Absolutely.
I'm not going to lie, Corey, maybe a little TMI, but when I'm at home and I weigh myself in, the skivvies are basically on. That's it. And then I've been going to the doctor here and there.
Yeah.
And then
it's 5 or 6 pounds.
Yeah, and they're like 196. I'm like, what? Yeah. I'm like, no way. And I'm like,
jeans are heavy, but shoes are heavy. Yeah. Trust me, I've lived that life. Yeah. But I don't know anything. I didn't. Other than he got one, I didn't read anything about it. I don't know any of the details. Not that any of them are going to be good.
Well, he blew below the legal limit, which is .08, but he's under the age of 21. So there's different rules, I think, like basically if you blow anything.
So he wasn't legally drunk, but he was illegally drinking and driving.
Yeah.
Right? That's a distinction, I guess?
Yeah, I would think that he's ultimately going to probably be able to get this off to like a reckless driving if everything if he gets a lawyer or whatever. I would think in my rough estimation of having to deal with this sort of stuff in my own personal life a long time ago, which I don't recommend to anybody.
What did he blow?
Well, he blew like a .06 and like a .07. And technically they say that like one alcoholic drink is .02. So to be legally impaired, you roughly would drink 4 beers, 4 glasses of wine, or have like 4 shots. But then you metabolize about one of those drinks every single hour. The crazy thing is he went from .07 to .06 in 20 minutes time. So I guess that's just the metabolism of a Division I high caliber athlete.
It's weird that they made him blow again when he wasn't.
They do. When you submit to performing the breathalyzer, like you do it once and then they'll do it 15, 20 minutes afterwards as well.
But then they arrested him anyway.
Yeah, you do that once you get booked. Like they typically do not do it during the actual traffic stop. They do the traffic stop, they make you do your field sobriety test, which they said he was unstable and, didn't keep his foot off the ground high enough. But yeah, then they'll take it to the actual like intake, and that's where they'll usually sit you down, like, will you consent to taking a blood alcohol test? And you're like, yeah,
right.
And then you blow.
Well,
into the
look,
scale.
I don't. We probably. I literally was just getting the details from the story. We all most of us
talk about from it. The 6-1-2-10 is the takeaway.
I don't think there's. Look, it's a mistake. Don't do that again. I feel like it would be dishonest and completely disingenuous for me to criticize a college student for drinking alcohol. That's ridiculous, because I did. So did you. So did
Obviously.
Most people listening to this. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And he wasn't legally drunk. Just be smart enough to not, I don't know, get pulled over, I guess. I mean, I had a couple of beers and drove when I was 20. So I can't really sit here and criticize Charles Lester for doing something like that. Just, make better decisions next time. I assume he has enough NIL money. Get an Uber.
Well, this ties in a little bit. I guess we really do need to move on. But Carson Beck getting his car stolen. Wouldn't you just ask for a chauffeur? I don't want a car. No one's going to keep these cars. They're obviously leasing these Lamborghinis and these Range Rovers and all these high-end cars. Why wouldn't you just ask for a chauffeur? Just give me a guy from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Right.
That's going to be able to pick me up wherever I got to go, whenever I got to go. You don't have to worry about parking anywhere. You're getting dropped off at the curb everywhere you go. Awesome. I don't know. That needs to be the next level thinking, or they're going to have to start going to asking for personal security so they don't get their stuff stolen.
It's crazy. And the thing is, it's out. So we all know Patrick Mahomes makes a lot of money, right? We get it. I bet he lives in a gated community with security. Carson Beck, I don't know where he lives. Does he live, across the street from the arena? Who knows where he lives? I doubt he lives in the same palatial estates that all these other people do. But we know he has money, and he's driving around in a Lamborghini, and it's like, that's fine, man. That's your choice. You earned that money, I guess. It's supply and demand, so you earned it. But, they don't have maybe the things in place that need to be in place to protect them when their money becomes public like this. Public, it's a college kid making $3 or $4 million a year, and I think that could go for. I mean, Miami's not even a college town. Imagine the starting quarterback at Alabama. What's he do with his stuff? They all know where you're not living in a. Maybe they are. Maybe they're all going to start living at Golden Eagle. All the football players. I don't know how it's going to work, but yeah, this is one of the byproducts of a college athlete knowingly having $4 million to his name, and I guess driving around. I mean, when you're driving around in a car like that, you're going to attract some attention. Didn't his girlfriend get hers stolen too?
Apparently, yeah.
Oh man, it was.
Then they got hers back though.
That's good. That's good. And she probably still makes more money than him anyway.
All right, let's get to it. One of our newest subscribers, Bennett-Knoll! Exclamation point. I've been watching the All-22 review by Dominic Robinson and Tom Lang, which have been very insightful to the Gus Malzahn offense. This past Monday, you guys were talking about NIL spending, offensive line being a high spending area. Got me thinking, how good were the offensive lines during the best days Auburn had while Gus was their head coach? Were they college All-Americans, All-SEC? Did they get drafted or not? Comparatively, it could possibly tell us what reasonable expectations should be this season for our Noles. Thanks, guys. I did some quick cursory research, Corey.
Good.
So I counted 8 different players from 2013 to 2020 that were all SEC at Auburn when Gus was obviously the head coach. I don't know how much of that was. I think most of it was Herb Hand, because I think Herb Hand, or actually, no, I take that back. I think Herb Hand actually showed up towards the middle part of Gus's
I know
tenure.
Herb Hand was at Penn State when Saquon was a freshman.
Yeah.
So I think that was 16 or 17. So he was at Penn State during those 2 years.
Yeah, so I can pull up here probably really quickly. So he was the offensive line coach in 2016 and 2017. So actually, yeah, they had 4 dudes in 16 and 17, those 2 singles. So half of those 8 guys were under Herb Hand's sort of watch. So
there you go.
And they were these were either first or second teamers. I think Greg Robinson's the only guy who got drafted. He was the tackle for Auburn in 2013 that I think pulverized poor LaMarcus Joyner on the first touchdown Auburn had. He came around on a counter, I think, and wiped our guy out. But hey, he had like 200 pounds on LaMarcus, who had the ring, who made the interception.
That's right.
Or did LaMarcus jump on the fumble after the interception?
Yeah, he jumped on the fumble, yeah.
So they had 8 dudes, which, that's probably, that's like 5 times as much as Florida State's had, since, I don't know, since the 2013-2014 team here at Florida State. So, yeah, he did have good college football offensive linemen. I mean, you have a lot of pros, though.
Look, man, this to me is more encouraging than the opposite. Like, clearly, this is not an offensive attack that needs NFL draft picks on the offensive line. Like, what did you just say? One of those guys was drafted?
That I know off the top of the head for sure.
Oh, there's probably a couple. I'm sure it says in Herb Hand's bio how many of his guys have been drafted, but none of them were like super-duper All-American first-round picks. And yet they still manage always to put up an offense that runs the ball well and scores points. So, again, you would look, you all want the Greg Robinsons and the Cam Irvings and the Walter Joneses. You're looking for them. You hope you get them. There aren't that many of them. But, you don't want to have – if you can't have a good or great offensive line, you don't want that to just wreck your team. And I mean, like, supremely talented offensive linemen. You can take above-average offensive linemen collectively and make them a good offensive line. That's what you're hoping – because that's what they've done. That's what Malzahn has done. He's not had superstar offensive linemen anywhere he's been except for Greg Robinson. And yet – here we are 12 years later, and the guy always has a top 10 rushing attack. So he makes it work. Now, if you go and get 3 first-round picks on the offensive line, it'll go from good to incredible, but good is good enough for right now. That's why I have all that confidence that they haven't had a litany of first-round picks at running back, skill guys, even offensive linemen, and yet they always have a good offense. It's not solely dependent on talent. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like
elite talent, I guess.
Obviously, you need talent, but you don't need elite, unbelievable talent to go beat Alabama. He's found out ways to beat Alabama even without having Cam Newton at quarterback. It's good to know.
Quick follow-ups there. One of the guys, Sean Coleman, was a third-round pick. Braden Smith, who was first-team All-SEC in 15 and 16, he actually went in the second round. And then Prince Tego Wanahogo went in the sixth round. So I think that makes like half of the guys that were All-SEC actually ended up getting drafted.
Okay, but none first-rounders.
Greg Robinson, I think, was. But that wasn't a Herb Hand guy, but he's the only one, so... Yeah, he went like third overall or something. He went really
he was top
high.
10 at least, yeah.
So, all right, moving along here on the Renegade Express mailbag. We'll go to Miami. Let's talk about Miami. Our guy here, Blue Nole. I want to ask about next year's Miami team. What do you expect out of Carson Beck? Personally expect a very meh season from him and the Hurricanes. He's coming off elbow surgery, learning a new system, plus their defense isn't that great. That being said, I think they take a big step back. Maybe Beck becomes their DJ. Well, maybe not as bad. Do you think we can take them down in Tallahassee this season, Blue Nole?
I mean, yeah. I think it can happen. We'll see. We'll know a lot more 7 months from now. But, yeah, I mean, I look, Carson Beck is a fine college quarterback. He's had good moments. He's got some real tools. He's got a big arm if it's working. He was not great in 2024 at all. And in 2023, when he didn't have McConkey and Bowers, he wasn't very good either. As in the Alabama game, both those guys were hurt. They played, but they were hurt. When he had those two guys, all of a sudden he's a really good quarterback. By the way, McConkey, how about that kid? Huh?
Sheesh.
Just under-recruited, like the last guy they offered a scholarship to. I think I saw a podcast where the players that some of his Georgia teammates had a podcast, and they thought he was a walk-on. And they're like, man, the walk-on is torching us. Why does he? It's like he's not a walk-on. Why do you think he's a walk-on? But yeah, so he was not heralded at all. And
his dad was a pro, wasn't? Did his dad play in the league?
I don't think so. Phil McConkey was a wide receiver on the Giants that won the Super Bowl in the 80s. I don't think that's any relation to him, which is really bizarre to have that weird last name and play that position and not be related. But yeah, so I think that Beck is a fine quarterback. He's not going to have the weapons that he had at Georgia around him, although the receivers really let him down a lot this year with the drops. But, yeah, he's not Cam Ward. Let's put it that way. They are taking a step back at the quarterback position no matter how good Beck ends up being. Maybe he recovers and he looks just like he did in 23. He's not as good as Cam. He will not be as good as Cam Ward was in 2024. There is no chance. None. I mean, those numbers are outrageous. What they did on third down was outrageous. His numbers in general, just incredible. That's not happening. He ain't that guy. So, yeah, there will be a step back. We'll see how big a step back, and if he can get over this auto theft. Maybe that derails him.
Yeah, I still don't know if we have any definitive answers on whether or not he's going to try to perform in the spring, but I would think it's questionable at best if we're going to use NFL designations. But not much else to add other than he's not going to have the receivers he had when he had Bowers and McConkey, and we saw just how different it was when he didn't have those guys this past season. The only thing I would say is that their defense might sneaky be decent this year.
It can't be worse. I mean, it was bad last year, especially at the end of the year. It was horrible.
Yeah, it's crazy, though. The traditional statistics, they weren't that bad. They were 27th in yards allowed, but they were 70th in scoring. So maybe they buttoned that a little bit up. But they got that Posey kid from Jacksonville State. That's a safety that I guess was really, really highly sought after in the portal. They also got a defensive lineman, Blatt or something like that. He's from Louisiana. Bland, maybe. He's from Louisiana Tech. He's another guy that a lot of big programs want, and they think he's a sneaky, very productive guy. So that defense could be not want to say a handful, but obviously providing a little bit more resistance than they did towards the end of last season. But yeah, there's no schedule, there's no game on the schedule, even the Alabama game, to where I'm waving a white flag in February. And I don't even know if there's anything I would see in the spring that would make me feel like, yeah, Miami's going to come in here and take the dub. No
chance.
Yeah.
No, but we just don't know, man. Who would have thought that?
Listen, we sat here and we're like, they're going to destroy Florida. Look at Florida's last 5 games of the season. They're going to be 0-5.
We thought Napier wouldn't even be coaching
yeah.
at that time, and they didn't. I mean, it's not like Florida had a good year, but they didn't crumble into pieces like Florida State did. So you just don't know. It's just not. There's nothing that's guaranteed in college football anymore from year to year. So I don't know. I think Florida State certainly has a chance to beat Miami. I think, but there's no way they wouldn't. There's nobody. Yeah, like as Aslan said, last year when you look at the season as a whole, Notre Dame was always going to be the one where you're like, that's going to be dicey no matter how good these teams are. And it turned out they were all dicey. But we would have had we don't know right now, 7 months out, what these teams are going to be. You just don't know. Alabama might be a 6-6 team, or they might be 11-1. Mm-hmm. Like literally, no idea. No idea. You can say the same for Florida State. Say the same for half the teams on the schedule. Maybe not 11-1, but they could have really good years, top 15 years, or they could have losing seasons. Clemson seems like obviously the most consistently good team on the schedule, right? Clemson and Alabama.
Yes.
But Alabama you can't even say because it's his second year.
And it's a new quarterback.
Like Dabo, Dabo is going to have a capable, competent top 15 team at least. At least that's his floor. Everybody else, even including Alabama, you just don't have any clue how good they're going to be.
Moving along here in the mailbag. Oh, here's Southernmost Seminole. He's the winner of the grand prize from last year. Got a generator and a portable power station. Wake up if you could send a 1-sentence message back in time a year to Coach Mike. What would you tell him to make the biggest positive impact on the 24 season? He's guaranteed to get it and believe it. What warning do you send? Mine would probably be freaking pay Cam Ward. Probably one that's not bad.
Yeah, I would say that would cost you less than the $4.5 million you gave back. I don't know what Cam. I think they said a couple million. Yeah. In hindsight, not that Cam Ward would have made Florida State all of a sudden a playoff contender because there were too many holes on the team, obviously. But it would have made Miami less. They wouldn't have won their 9 or 10 games or whatever and been the talk of college football right up until they blew it at the end like they always do.
All right, let's continue to interrogate Mike Norvell. Our guy, M. Adam CZ, says, wake up. If you could get Mike in a room off the record right now and ask him what truly went wrong last year, what do you think he would be most likely to tell you, knowing that it wouldn't be reported? A, we had the worst offensive line in college football. Our quarterbacks were immobile or inexperienced, therefore the worst offense. B, we had no leader step up to fill the void from the 23 team, and the coaches could only coach them up so much. C, we basically took the same team that got pummeled by Georgia in the Orange Bowl after the snub, added nothing of real value in the portal, and the team had zero confidence and belief. or D, something else?
I would say, well, they're all right. But I would say C is the one that would have been, like, when you take all those backups that got absolutely obliterated, didn't even belong on the field, just got embarrassed in the Orange Bowl, and then said, okay, that's going to be the cornerstone of the team we bring back, along with some unproven guys in the portal from big-time places but haven't played a whole lot. That was a horrible recipe in hindsight. So I would have told him not to do that.
Well, somebody wanted to take that a little bit further. It comes from our guy here, Whack169. He quotes the entire question from Mark because he was going to post the same exact thing. Our guy's angry. I've heard nothing from anyone, not the coaches, not the Warchant staff, not even here on the message boards, about a concrete reason why what happened last year happened. I remember being so pissed when at the last player interview before the Florida game, not one friggin' reporter, not one, asked the offensive line player, I think it might have been Darius Washington, what the hell happened to you guys this year? Total BS on every reporter in that room. Don't give me the BS about their college kids. Give them a break. Screw that. Those guys are getting paid. They need to be called onto the carpet, as does the head coach. If you don't have a concrete reason for what happened last year, how do you know it won't happen again this year? I am also tired of people not getting called out for why they suck at things. Everyone is getting paid big bucks. I don't give a damn about whose feelings it hurts. Has anyone on the Warchant staff actually done some digging on what the hell happened last year? I mean, concrete reasons, not what people think or others feel may have happened. Still pissed. Without further ado, Corey Clark, you've all heard our question that will be featured in our video, generating discussion sparked by Cummins, Whack169, featuring just pure anger. Let's just go ahead. The cameras have been on. The generator. Do it, Corey. There we go.
Do this for Whack. I mean, I do 20 of them for Whack.
In all seriousness, it's that time of year almost, as the thaw starts approaching soon, hopefully, to get back in that RV and travel the great country of ours from sea to shining sea. You don't want to be caught without power wherever you go, so bring Cummins with you. Cummins own-in products. Check them out, shop.cummins.com. Give them a follow on Instagram, Cummins Lifestyle. Corey, I don't know if I want to put a bow on last year by doing this. I don't think there is a concrete reason. I don't even know if I have all the reasons that are legitimate, reasonable explanations that we've talked about for the last 4 months, probably. But yeah, man, I'm not trying to say, like, listen, I ask awkward questions. I'm okay with it, and I'm not scared, but I don't know what I would have gotten out of Darius Washington. Like, what the hell's wrong with you guys this year? What do you think he would have said? Like, I get you're angry, you're upset, and that might have made you feel good for him to have to kind of feel accountability for underperforming. But I don't know what comes out of that. And again, man, there's just so many things. The leadership void, as Mark talked about. I think the fact that you obviously miscalculated on the portal. Now, why did you? Was that because everybody got paid? We kind of maybe took a little bit of sigh of relief, and we thought that we as coaches, we made it. We can kind of maybe rest on some of our laurels. I think that's part of the mix as well. There's just so many things. I don't think outside of a 30 for 30 dedicate on finding out the answer, there would ever be a concrete reason, Corey.
Well, I mean, no, there's not a reason singular. It's what was the, hey, Aslan, let me ask you this. What was the concrete reason they went 13-0 in 2023? Give me the reason.
Right. Transfer portal.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, I know Jordan Travis transferred,
yeah, but
he was a big reason.
Yeah.
The head coach was a big reason. The head coach being there, convincing guys to come play for him was a big reason. So, and you could say the transfer portal, but it wasn't like Johnny Wilson and Trey Benson were known commodities when they got to Florida State. There was a culture that was a part of it. There was a scheme that was a part of it. There was a electric quarterback that was all a part of it. There are 1,000 reasons, 1,000,000. I mean, look, man, from no leadership to misses in the portal to misses in recruiting and developing. Like, what? I don't know what you think. And I'm not trying to be like Ira and get all defensive. The anger is justified.
Yes.
I don't know why the anger would be directed at anybody but the head coach and his staff, because it all needs to be at them. And the reasons are it's complex. They're multi-layered. You went from Jared Verse as your best defensive end to Patrick Payton. Not just the talent level between those two, the disparity there, but also personality-wise. Maybe not a fit when that guy's your best defensive lineman.
Tatum Bethune and Kalen DeLoach to guys that have not played college football.
It did not know where they were going some of the time. Maybe they weren't coached well. Like the linebackers weren't coached well. The receivers weren't coached well. You didn't recruit well off the 2 10-win seasons you had in a row. The portal you missed at. Your offensive line was a wreck. So the offensive line coach didn't do a good job. Like all of those, there's not one singular reason. There just isn't. There couldn't be. Just like when I flipped it around, there wasn't one singular reason that they went 13-0. Yeah, the portal helped, but that's a nebulous term. Like they had the portal's there all the time. They were good getting guys out of the portal in 22 and 23, and horrible were in 2024. Why? But even then, even if they'd have been good in the portal, that team wasn't set up to be a good team because there was no leadership, there was no offensive line. The line of scrimmage was soft. Why is that? Josh Storm's not any good at his job anymore. Do Atkins and Hagens both suck? Like, there's always reasons when things go horribly wrong, multiple reasons, and there's always reasons why they go great. It's never one thing. The 2013 team won a national championship. It was not just because Kelvin Benjamin was tall and Jameis Winston was good at quarterbacking. You had that whole defense played in the NFL. You had backups that competed every day to make the starters better. Like it's multi-layered. So it's hard to quantify why what happened last year happened. But you can still be angry about it. That's fine. It's unforgivable, honestly, to have that kind of season where you're that close to going 1-11 and 0-11 against FBS schools. It's incredible. You were that close to being 0-11. It's 1973 all over again. But the anger for that season is justified. But they flipped the roster and they flipped the coaching staff. I don't know what else do you want them to do? They got proven guys. They got really elite guys or guys that were at least wanted by a lot of different programs or would have been wanted by a lot of different programs to run their offense or their defense or to run their offensive line. They went and got and spent money. So they're trying to rectify it. But yeah, I we'll see if it happens again. I would be stunned if it happens again. If it does, then you can say the reason is the head coach.
Yeah, I guess on the way out here on this topic, at least, if you don't have a concrete reason for what happened last year, how do you know it won't happen again this year? And to your point, Corey, it isn't one singular thing. You've got new coaches. So you've identified maybe that aspect of things. You've obviously flipped your roster. You've identified that part of things. Your coach has come out and talked about, maybe he didn't hold guys accountable. He didn't bring that edge that the guys needed to replicate in practice and then in games. So like he's taking accountability for it. So all these different reasons have been addressed. Now, I don't think they're not going to go 2-10. Now, I don't think they're going to go 10-2 either, but they could. I think they're probably closer to going 10-2 this year. I'd be much more surprised if they go 2-10 this year than if they did 10-2. Yeah. So sitting here in February, I'll take it.
And look, I don't think that either one of us really have a problem with asking guys getting paid money hard questions. So yeah, if they start off poorly again, I don't. Especially Norvell. I think Norvell, we asked plenty of times. It's just what can he say? He believes in those guys. He believes in the guys in the locker room. They fight hard and they play hard and all that. But it was just words. And I don't know that Darius would have. You're right. We could have asked Darius, like, man, what happened? Why haven't y'all been able to run the ball?
You're supposed to be an All-American, Darius.
Right.
First round pick. Now you're going to have to
be
an insurance salesman. Yeah.
Don't know what answer he could have given, but we could have asked that. Probably should have asked that. Maybe got some insight out of the players as opposed to the coach, because the coach wasn't giving any real answers. But the answers were obvious, I thought. I thought the answers were obvious in that the offensive line and the offense were horrible. And they were horrible because of misevaluation of bad coaching. And
the opposite of that is the awesomeness that is Cummins, everybody. Again, Cummins owning products, portable generators, portable power stations. Get out there, everybody. Touch grass. Feel everything great. And then have the owning products behind you so they can enjoy it fully. Follow them over on Instagram at Cummins Lifestyle. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, cptallybar.com website, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Physical address. Daily lunch specials from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Friday. You know what's going down. It's a chicken strip basket, hand-breaded, served with a dipping sauce of your choice on the side, or they'll put it in a bowl, they'll spin it around, it'll be perfectly coated. All different flavors, varieties of sauces also available for that daily lunch special. You get a side dish of your choice as well. Again, all that for only $8.99. Don't forget live music this weekend. Hot Mess. Tallahassee Legends, cover band of the highest order, going down over the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Darts, billiards, bingo on Thursday, trivia on Tuesdays. Craft your whole week around all the awesome things going down over the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. 2475 Appalachia Parkway. We are back. It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Let us continue our Mike Norvell portion of the program today, Corey. We go to Old City Knoll 15. Which old city are you referring to? I would like to know. Wake Up. I was listening to Wake Up the other morning, and it presented a thought experiment and an idea that I came up with. In Norvell's time at his previous schools, he almost year in and year out had one, maybe two productive running backs, one productive quarterback, and one or two productive wide receivers. This led him to have very productive offenses because he rode with those few guys, and the numbers prove that. However, since his tenure here, he has a larger pool of talent, whereas at his previous stops, he had no choice other than to ride with his few best players. I say all this to present the question of, has Norvell been too attracted to all the shiny things that are on the FSU roster, or the potential of someone being a shiny thing? Or is this the reality of NIL and playing all of the players you pay? Or is this a transfer portal built program problem? This was shown in the hockey style rotations and the running back rotations instead of riding the hot hand. Ultimately, I know Norvell isn't calling plays this upcoming season. So will Gus go back to the roots of college football where you rode your best players the entire game? That's a theory.
It is a theory. I think that's not a bad theory. I think the one that I agree with the most is like when you're at Memphis, and no disrespect to Memphis because they came in and beat Florida State last year, but they're not the program. They're not a caliber program that Florida State is year in and year out or decade in, decade out. But when you get a guy like Kenneth Gainwell, or you get a guy that's who was the other running back they had?
Daryl, gosh, Aslan, you should know him.
You're supposed to know that.
He went to South Panola. He went to South Panola High School.
Well, close enough, yeah. Tony Pollard, didn't he have Tony Pollard?
You did have him as well.
So when you have guys like that obviously stand
Daryl Henderson,
out,
sorry.
There it is. Above and beyond the other guys on the roster, of course you're going to feed them the ball the most. And look, when he had Trey Benson got 70% of the carries. Shout out to Trey, by the way. He was at the game on Wednesday
Shout out to all the those.
Yeah.
Verse.
Well, I don't know what they were doing. Jared Verse was there. Jordan Travis was there. That was cool.
Still friends with Amari Gaynor, Knoll for life.
Yeah. So Peter Warwick was there too.
Yeah.
It was good times and a good win. So, but yeah.
How was the weather inside the Triple C?
It's cold, very, very
Still
cold. It's incredibly cold. It is. It's like they got the AC on 50. But shout out to the students, man. They showed up for that game, and they were a lot. They started to swallow up the rest of the crowd because there were too many. They were moving from the student section to like the regular the huge swaths of empty seats courtside. So that was cool to see. That it felt like a real environment in there again.
Nice.
But
nice.
I don't know why they were there. It was some student appreciation night thing. But going back to the question, I think when you have these no doubt undeniable best players at a position, like you do at Memphis where the kid would have 1,500 yards receiving, he's a guy, we got to get the ball in his hands 15 times a game. We just have to. But at Florida State, especially this past year, when there isn't that much separation, there isn't an absolute stud at a wide receiver or the main guy in running back. Maybe you feel the need to rotate more to try to find that hot hand or to try to get the younger guy some work because he's not that much worse than your second-string guy or your third-string guy. So let him rotate in some too. I thought it was a mistake. I think it's a mistake. I also don't think but I think that theory is probably true. At Memphis, there are some guys that when you get you have to take a lot of chances at a place like Memphis. You have to go recruit, some diamonds in the rough and hope that they pan out. Most of them probably don't, but you do find a couple of diamonds in there, and it's the disparity between the best guy on your team and the fifth best guy on your team at Memphis seems like it's probably an enormous gap. So you don't feel bad at all about not playing those guys. At Florida State, maybe the kid said no to Alabama so he could come play for you. Or he said no to Florida. And you feel a little more of a tug. Man, I got to get this guy on the field. I got to get him some real work, get some action. Because he does have more potential. He has a lot of potential. I'm trying to tap into that. There's a lot of things that I think go into that kind of thought process at Florida State that you don't have to really worry about at Memphis. At the same time, play your best players. Yeah. And only play your best players. And I think Gus Malzahn has been doing that for 2 decades, and I expect that to be at Florida State in 2025.
Yeah. I think it's less about these guys are on the payroll, I need to use them, like the Cap Rooney rule or whatever in any given Sunday, where it's like, hey, listen, this is our guy. We spent all this money on. We got to still play him. And I think it's more just about, and I don't know if we'd ever get like the right answer on him to like almost circle back to the generating discussion question about like, what would you want to ask Mike and get a true answer out of. But I would think that he's always had this, these grand thoughts for what his offense would look like. And he wants to make it very pro style and all these, shifts and different sub packages. And then you finally get to a place where you feel like, okay, I can do this. Like I have this entire world is opening up to me and I can really unleash and unlock my offense. And listen, they ran the ball like crazy, like mad in 2022. And then 2023, he had all these different bells and whistles and things. And, nobody was complaining then. But, again, that's a tough kind of ask to keep having that level of talent year in and year out. So why not just figure out the staples, the meat and potatoes of who you want to be, the guys that fit that, and just ride them. And
what else, too, though? Going back to what we talked about in yesterday's show is, when you run more plays, you should give a couple. Maybe you have a few more opportunities for other guys to get on the field. When you're only running 56 plays a game, and there were multiple games this year when they ran less than 60, it seems foolish when you only have a finite amount of plays to waste plays with guys that maybe shouldn't be on the field. Like when you're running 48 plays, make sure your best players are on the field for 42 of them, not 31 of them. That's a waste of 17 plays. But if you're running 86 plays, all right, man, give 15 away to the other guys so your other guys can get a break.
They had 7 receivers that played 100 or more snaps.
That's impossible.
And then, they had Morlock played 416 snaps. Jackson West played 65. Amari Williams played 148. Landon Thomas played 281. Brian Courtney played 118. Like I don't think tight end needs to be spread that thin. But
right. Who were the leaders in plays on for the receivers?
Malik Benson 437. Ja'Kai Douglas 426.
Okay, and then the rest were in the 200s.
Yeah, Portier 274, Hakeem 297, Lawayne McCoy, Jalen Brown, and Darion were all in the hundreds.
All right.
Moving along here on the show, let's go to our guy Noel for Life, class of 2007. Let's bring it back to Miami. Wake up, fellas! Glad Leonard and the boys were able to secure yet another satisfying win over the Coral Gables Community College. In the grand scheme of things, it matters very little. We've had many satisfying victories over that school down south across many sports, but that got me thinking. We will keep this question focused on football. Pick a season that Florida State beat Miami. Now go back and look at the schedule for that season. What loss would you trade that Miami win for so that FSU ends up in a more advantageous position at the end of the season? For me, I would trade the 2021 victory over Miami with the loss to Notre Dame. One could argue that losing to Notre Dame led to the most embarrassing loss in program history the following week when we lost to Jacksonville State. I would take an L to Miami that season to erase that stink. What say you?
I would push back on that a little because if they would have beaten Notre Dame, Mackenzie Milton would have been the hero on campus. And I feel like that Saturday game plays out just the same where he gets all the snaps and they lose and they can't move the football. It felt like a win anyway, remember? Everybody felt so was on cloud 9 because they came close to winning and they went to overtime. I don't know what Mackenzie Milton was the starting quarterback. Like I guess I would say if Jordan Travis played well in that game and they won, beat Notre Dame, then yeah, I'd be like, yeah, that'd be the one I'd choose. There's got to be another one though. I'm trying to think. Didn't they beat Miami in 06? I'm going to say that. I think they beat Miami in 06. down there in one of those ugly season opening games.
Yeah.
I would trade that to beat the Gators at the end of the year instead.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Yes.
Right? Keeps them out of the national championship. Yep. And you almost beat them anyway if Michael Ray Garvin doesn't step out of bounds. It's at least a tie game. So, yeah, I would take that one.
I was going to almost bring it back to 2012, like swap out the Miami, but still, that's 2 losses. You're still not going to the BCS. Yeah, that's the answer right there, Corey. Shoot, I like this. This probably would generate a lot of discussion. Try again next week, Noel, for Life Class of 2007, who I think actually was our first weekly winner last year when we started this great franchise. Let's go back to the hoops, to the hardwood. Random_John, good morning, boys. I believe it was Ira Schofel who said FSU is looking for a basketball coach who can recruit players, bring in NIL money, and not need support from the university. So, who is this miracle worker? Who's the coaching messiah who can walk on water and recruit shooters that guard the perimeter? And where exactly is this coach finding Scrooge McDuck and Mr. Monopoly to bankroll NIL for a program that hasn't seen money roll in since Truman was in office? If FSU demands our coach do literally everything, can that coach be called assistant AD as well, since they will clearly be doing that job too? And if administration cares this little about men's basketball, why don't they just axe it? Put it out of its misery. The admin clearly wouldn't even notice, as the program is already an afterthought. Anyway, this coming from a guy who loves the program. But hey, at least we paid $10 million to go 2-10 in football, so we got that going for us. Go Noles.
Hey, and at least you can agree to NIL deals and then not pay them. Sorry, too soon. Too soon. We'll see. Allegedly, everyone.
Well, in the defense of this thought, Corey was not on the Seminole Headlines panel to push back. But yeah, I think Ira and Jeff were talking about they want a guy that has proven that they can go get players. But I guess also kind of, admitting that, the NIL resources are not up to snuff. So
I don't think if you're Michael Alford, and let's just say you're interviewing CY. By the way, another big win for Missouri on Wednesday night. They put up like 108 and beat Alabama. They've got 20 wins already. Dennis Gates has done a great job, and Charlton Young is his top assistant, and they both were here at Florida State for about a decade. Helped put together the great teams of the late teens.
Was that year 3 for him? They were really good. The first year they made the tournament, they were horrible last year.
Last year they were 0-18, and then this year they're what they are again. So, but the point being, they have financial backing. So if you're going to talk to CY, obviously Gates isn't going to leave Missouri for Florida State. I mean, you can ask, but he's probably not. You go to CY and go, look, we want to do exactly what you're doing at Missouri. But you know the realities of the situation. It's not so much the administration as like, we don't care about basketball. The fan base doesn't care about basketball.
Yeah.
Not to the extent it needs to compete at the highest level. That's what made what Leonard did, those 2 pockets that he was here, so remarkable, is that they were one of the best teams in the country without a fan base that supported it like it was one of the best teams in the country. So the reality of the situation is you can't say, CY, just give us our X's and O's. We want to run your system, but we'll take care of all the financial stuff and get you a great roster. That's not going to happen. That's the reality. So you have to ask him, look, here's the budget. Here's our budget. We'll pay you. You're going to get paid. Your coaches will get paid. But our NIL isn't the battle's end. We don't have the battle's end for our NIL. What plans do you have, or what avenues can you go down to assure us that we can be competitive? Like, do you have any way to make us competitive on that side of the ledger? Like, we trust that that you're going to coach the kids here hard. They're going to play hard. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun style. You can go find guys that can shoot because they're everywhere in the country except Tallahassee, Florida. But you can go find guys that can shoot. But do you have any plans in place or any thoughts on how to raise our NIL profile where we can compete and get, the top 25 players, 2 of the top 25 players in the country are some of the biggest portal kids in the country. How you've done it? You did it in Missouri. How much did it cost? Who did you befriend to do it? Do you have any connections in this sport, in this town, that you think you could open up checkbooks and get us to be competitive? That would just be a question. I don't think it's a deal breaker because, yeah, you're right. That profile of an X's and O's guy, a guy that knows Florida State, a guy that can recruit the high school kids and develop relationships, and a guy that can open up checkbooks and open up a vault, yeah, there aren't a lot of them. But I think it's not like a deal breaker necessarily because, yes, it is on the administration to figure out a way to support their coach. Otherwise, why go get one? But you do want the guy to have at least a thought. You want him to have a plan about how we could do it, a game plan, a blueprint. Whether it actually comes to fruition or not, whether you can become competitive with Alabama or Auburn or Florida, maybe, maybe not, but you'd like him to at least have an idea of what he wants to try to do. Not just, give me my players and let me coach. I'm not dealing with any of that because that's not a reality. Florida State needs to find a guy that can drum up money.
Yeah,
right?
I was thinking, you can't drop bags on guys here at Florida State, but maybe you can drop pouches, or sacks.
Oh, okay, yeah, sacks. Yeah, like McDonald's sacks.
Yeah, because do you have to find like those Caleb Mills, like the guys that probably got a really good payday as a freshman, and then for to a really good program like Houston, and then maybe things didn't work out, and hopefully it didn't work out for a reason that's going to kind of follow them around as they jump from school to school. Just so much of it, I don't know, is it really going to be the war chest, the size of the war chest, or just being able to not even so much evaluate the talent, but finding those kind of fits, Corey, where like there is that high level talent that has maybe a question mark or two around it, but you feel that your system, your approach can make them a valuable player for at least one season.
Here's what I would say. Like, you have to have the ability. It's not like, Boston College doesn't pay what Florida State pays on the basket. It's not like Florida State is dirt poor in basketball. It's just not a blue blood when it comes to spending NIL money. But you have to, I'm going to use it again, smarter, not harder. Like, last year, paying Primo Spears and Caleb Mills whatever they paid them was a complete misuse of funds. Not 2 years ago with Mills, last year with Primo Spears. In any of those guys, if they got paid, was a complete misuse of funds. Like, evaluate better, man. Why would you look at the way Primo Spears plays basketball and think you want that to be a part of your basketball team? No offense to the kid.
He's actually doing really well this year, I think. I think he's the leading scorer at Texas San Antonio, wherever he is.
How are they doing? Or is he fun to play with? Like I'm saying, I'm not saying that he wasn't talented.
He's averaging 19 points. He's averaging 19.7 points. He's 23rd in the country in scoring.
How many shots? No, it's great, man. He could score.
They're 10 and 16. They're 11th in the American.
That is a perfect Primo Spears team to be a part of. And I'm not like he wants to shoot a lot. He doesn't care about other guys getting involved, and that's fine. But why bring that to Florida State? Like, Florida State isn't that kind of program. That's not a guy that should ever be at Florida State. That's not a Leonard Hamilton player. That's what I'm saying. Like,
he's shooting under 40% from the floor.
He shoots all the time. Like it's a perfect situation for him. Go shoot all the time. Don't play defense. Don't care if you get your teammates involved. Don't care if you win. Just get your numbers. That was Primo Spears to a T, and you knew that anyway because he was on a horrible Georgetown team where he scored a lot of points. And you're like, okay, this is an instant offense guy. This will be good for the team. You need some guys that can make buckets. No, it's to the detriment of the team. To what end? And that's what I'm saying. That was just a misevaluation about a personality that just didn't fit with what you're trying to build. And I think CY, because he's been on both sides of it now. He's been at great Florida State teams. He's been on great Missouri teams. He was also on a horrible Missouri team. So he's seen it all, and I don't even know if he's getting interviewed. I have no idea. I'm just saying, using him as an example, he's seen both sides of it, and he knows the right person for him. It's not just about getting buckets; it's about fit. And those were such bad miscalculations with fit for a few Mills before Spears, and then Spears. They were just horrible miscalculations, not in the talent level or the ability to hit some buckets, but just the overall fit was just ridiculous. So let's say you get $3 million to build a roster next year. Do you spend $1 million of it on Malik Ewan? Or do you spread it out and get a few more people that can shoot from the perimeter? I mean, I like Malik Ewan. He's an unbelievable offensive player. But those are the questions that you want your incoming coach to be able to answer. Don't just go get a big shiny toy because he averaged 19 a game somewhere. Go get somebody that fits your system, and go get a few of them.
Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy. We're wrapping things up here. Last few questions, Corey. Marlon Joker, wake up, gents. Here's my issue with the Invitational, a.k.a. the College Football Playoff. Shout out, by the way, to, I forgot who on Thursday, maybe it was Ethan Pritchard, who said that they went 13-0 in 2023. That was great.
That's right, Ethan.
That was great.
Tell him.
All right, so if the Big Two, SEC and the Big Ten, if they're head and shoulders above everybody else, why the need for guarantees? Wouldn't their hand-picked committee just rank all their teams in? Are they afraid that without Darth Vader, Nick Saban, the SEC dominance is over?
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. And I wonder what I really wonder. The more I thought about it after my crazy rant on yesterday's show is like, if you're so let's just say that the deal is $1 billion. I know it's more than that, but I'm just trying to do a round number. So it's $1 billion that ESPN or whoever gives the College Football Playoff Committee and the conferences, the leagues, the TV revenue. And you're guaranteed of having, let's say, 8 of the 12. So then 67% of the money goes to you two conferences, and then the ACC and the Big 12. So that's $335 million for each of those two conferences. And then it's $300 million to be split between the ACC and the Big 12. So that's another reason they would want to do it, maybe, because, oh, look, we're 67% of the field, so we should get obviously 2/3 of the money, and they can split the other third because we're more important than them because we got these 4 automatic bids. But that is a very fair point. It's like, man, if I was scared, I would actually agree to it if I was told they only get 4. But I'm feeling like, at least the way you were talking about it, Aslan, when you're counting up to 14 yesterday, and then obviously it'll go to 16 at some point, is they're guaranteed of 4, or they'll be guaranteed of 5. But then they can also get 2 at-larges. So now you're looking at 7 of the 16 being from the SEC. Some 7-5 SEC team is going to get a chance at the playoff, where a 9-3 or 10-2 ACC or Big 12 team doesn't. That's the next step. But yeah, if they're the best conference in the world anyway, why limit yourself to just 4? Why not? But but that's what I don't know. I don't know if in the contract, if this ever happens, we don't know if it'll happen. But if it happens where they're guaranteed they get 4 automatic berths, there probably won't be any writing that says we can't have 5. It's just there's 4 automatic every year.
Yeah, and there's still going to be
5 or 6 or 7, so be it. But we get 4 every year.
Well, 2 things. To your point, there's still going to be a wild card at large slot or 2.
Yeah. SEC.
Yeah, so those are probably going to go to those schools. Gosh, what was the other thing that was on the tip of my tongue when thinking about all this nonsense here? When we think about this playoff getting expanded, think, Aslan, put your mind to it. I don't know how you do this, Corey. Like, I interrupt you all the time, and you pick up like right on your thought. I say something for 10 seconds. I'm like, oh, I got 2 things to say, and then I say the one thing, and I'm like, forgot the other thing I was going to say. But
well, I have a bigger brain.
Yeah, truly. The other thing was, it seems like there's momentum, or whatever you want to call it, for the SEC to go to 9-game schedule. So that means they're going to be beating up on each other that much more. And if everybody else doesn't follow suit, now maybe I don't know if the Big Ten is already at 9 games. I know the Pac-12 was doing 9 games. But so if they're going to play more conference games, those teams are going to have more. There's going to be more 3-loss teams probably, right? So like a 3-loss team will not look as maybe marketable as a 2-loss ACC team. But if they can get themselves like the automatic bids, then it doesn't matter. Like, you can't talk about a 10-2 Florida State team being, well, listen, like, one of their games was to an SEC team they lost, and they ran roughshod over their conference. I think that's another sort of firewall for them to keep the amount of representation they think they're due. Because if they go to 9 games, they're just going to make maybe some of these other, South Carolina, right? We were told that South Carolina was the hottest team in the country, and that maybe they got, I don't want to say snubbed, but they should have maybe been the team from the SEC that was supposed to be brought into the Invitational, and they couldn't beat Illinois. So, this guarantees them all the access they want all the time. All right, last question. Armchair Osceola. Good morning, Alson and Corey. Normally I say Corey and Aslan, but today I switched it. And you switched the L and the S in my name. But I digress.
He got close. Close.
It's true. It's true.
How do you spell Corey? With an EY?
Yeah, of course.
All right, that a boy.
I realize turning over the roster is completely necessary to provide the best chance for success this year. That said, how are we as fans supposed to remain invested in the players on our roster when they change every year? I'm sure Tommy Castellanos is a great kid. I wish him lots of success here at Florida State, but it's not possible to feel attachment like we did with Jordan Travis when we saw the improvements and followed his college football career for 3 straight years. More broadly, I guess, do we think the powers that be in college football are aware this is an issue for fan interest and the long-term value of the product? What say you, gentlemen?
Look, man, I get it. I understand the concern, and I'm not even saying I disagree. But number one, Jordan Travis was a transfer too. He just transferred earlier, so it felt. I mean, he grew up in the program. He became the starter at Florida State, but he transferred too. So you could get a guy up for a year
Justin
or two.
Cryer, like Justin Cryer enrolled at Northwestern and left too. So
well, right, but so it could still work. And even Tommy Castellanos is a junior, right? So you could theoretically watch him for the next 2 years and be buoyed with the growth he showed from that freshman game up in Chestnut Hill in 2023 to where he is in 2026. So but I get the overall point. I just think, look, man, I think they always think you're rooting for laundry anyway. You're just rooting for the jersey. You're rooting for the uniform. Mm-hmm. And in most cases, they're right. Like the NFL, every roster is turned over 50% of the time every year. I can't name 5 defense. Well, I probably can. I can't name 7 defensive players on the Falcons. I certainly have no idea who's coming back. None. And I mean, I'm not a hardcore Falcons fan, but I'm a Falcons fan. But I hope they win, and I learn it as they go. And the NFL has done it. Not every the superstars stay on the same team for a decade, like the Derwin Jameses and I was going to say Jalen Ramsey, but he's been on a couple teams now. But by and large, they go. Except for the quarterbacks, in the big-time wide receivers, they switch teams. And it's a lot of different faces every year. Like, literally, I think half of every NFL team is different from year to year. So I assume that will be what they think will happen in college football, is you'll just get used to the change. And you'll have a couple of stalwarts, 4 or 5 that from year to year that are here for 3 or 4 years and contributing. Everybody else, like a Braden Fisk, like a Keon Coleman, they become your favorites because they're really good. Even if you only get them for a year, that's a fun year, and you get to enjoy them. And I do think people enjoy that Keon came here for a year and Braden came here for a year. I think Florida State people take pride in that.
Yeah, man.
And fans take pride in that, even though they were here for a year. So I just think that will be – they hope it's more of the same. And I'll say, look, man, Kentucky basketball fans, they're as rabid as any fan base in the world. And they never know who's going to be on their team from year to year. No clue. They went 15 years having to learn guys every year because the whole roster would change. Now, they're super-duper freshmen, and they're all lottery picks, but they're new faces. And they learn to live with it, and they learn to embrace it. So I just think that's what the powers that be think will happen with this. I don't think there's any turning back. I think the portal is here to stay. Hopefully, the mass chaos will subside some with house settlement whenever that happens. And there's some parameters and some guardrails put in place. But yeah, it's always going to be a lot of change from year to year and team to team.
Yeah, I wish I was 30 so I had more hair, but also so I could have lived in both of these eras with full passion. Because again, this being the job now, it's not nearly as live and die, everything rides on, well, I guess, fiscally it does, but my emotions are not nearly as intertwined with everything that happens on the football field as it once was. So I don't, seeing Kelvin Benjamin catch that touchdown in Pasadena, I don't know if subconsciously I was like, this is the culmination of 4 years of following this kid and hoping why aren't you playing him, Jimbo? Give the kid a shot. Oh, it's because he's not in shape. And then he's slowly getting better year after year after year. And then seeing it all kind of pay off. I don't know if that's really why it felt so amazing. Maybe it was, but I can't have anything to compare it to in terms of seeing Braden Fisk just come in here after 6 months and just set the world on fire and be all right, he's now my favorite defensive player of all time. And to the laundry point of it, whatever tiff there was between Keon and Ron Dugans, and this shows the absolute lunacy of fans sometimes. I don't know if Dugans was saying something about Keon or vice versa or whatever, like don't go play for Dugans. And like everybody got mad at Dugans. Dugans played here. He's from Tallahassee. He won a national championship here. He's a coach here for all these years. And Keon Coleman was here for like 9 months, and everybody took Keon Coleman's side. So it's a bizarre thing. I don't know where the allegiances lie and how you figure all that and you get to it. But yeah, sadly, I think they've got us on the hook. Like we're gonna watch no matter what. So they're gonna take advantage of that.
I think when it comes to that, and I'm not going to try to speak collectively for an FSU fan base that was anti Ron Dugans or pro Keon Coleman. It's more of like, are you doing a good job or not? That's the ultimate loyalty that people have.
Yeah.
Look at the basketball head coach. Like people are very happy that he's leaving now because he's had 4 down years and it's time to go. I'm not arguing that he shouldn't, but he was pretty beloved in 2020. Like the loyalty was there then, but if you're not doing a good job, that loyalty that only goes so far. And I mean, I don't know how you could argue that 2024 Ron Dugans or anybody else on that staff for that matter did a good job. And that's the loyalty goes so far. Look, I think there's a lot of people that like this show and like us. But if we suck for 2 straight months, and that can never happen. Guys, we bring it every day. I don't know if you understand. If you check your calendar, it is February 21st. We're still weeks away from spring football. And guess who just talked an hour about football? Your boys right here. So if that stopped happening and we started talking more about, table games at casinos, if that was our whole show, you'd probably stop listening and the loyalty would go away. But God love us because we're here. We're talking about God's game, college football, year-round. Even in the dead of winter when it's like 35 degrees outside, that's what we're doing because we're here for you. And Ron Dugans couldn't live up to that standard. That's why he's no longer am I right, Aslan, right or wrong?
If my microphone was not mounted to a bookshelf, I would drop it, and that would be the end of the show.
I'm just kidding, Ron. I was there in New Orleans when you caught 2 touchdown passes, 2 huge touchdown passes to help beat Michael Vick in the Virginia Tech Hokies to win that national championship. You'll always have a special place in my heart, buddy. You're a good Nole and still are a good Nole.
All right, baseball, softball, lots to discuss, lots going on this weekend. Stay connected to warchant.com. Jeff Cameron Show 1 to 4 o'clock, warchant.com around the clock, everybody. He's Corey Maslon. Thanks for listening to another week of football talk on Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.